Hello, this is Sergio Cicero from University of Cantabria in Spain, and I'm going to present the work entitled Application of the Theory of Critical Distance-Based Methodology for the Analysis of Environmentally Assisted Cracking Processes in Biomaterials. My co-authors are Pablo González, which is actually the main author of this work, Borja Arroyo, Mirko Peron, José Alberto Alvarez and Filippo Berto. This is then a collaboration between the University of Cantabria and NTNU in Norway. Contents of the presentation are divided in 5 sections. First of all, an introduction, then a brief summary of the theory of critical distances, materials and methods, results, and finally, conclusions. Well, magnesium alloys are a very competitive material when talking about biomedical applications. They are a family of materials with a really high specific strength. They have good tensile properties, for example, and they are very light. So they are a very really good candidate to be used as implants in human body. The thing is that the proper human body is an aggressive environment, and the magnesium alloys may have issues with corrosion phenomena, and that's what we are analyzing here. We are analyzing how a particular magnesium alloy behaves under environmentally assisted cracking conditions. Concerning environmentally assisted crackings, just a brief overview. We need 3 ingredients acting all together to have environmental assisted cracking. In this case, a susceptible material, which again, it's a magnesium alloy, an aggressive environment, which is given by the human body, and tensile stresses. A particular type of environmental assisted cracking is hydrogen embrittlement, on which the hydrogen which is present in the environment finally enters the matrix of the material and introduces internal stresses, and as a macroscopic consequence, it reduces the load bearing capacity of the material, and as it is seen in this picture. So the objectives of this work is first of all to analyze the environmentally assisted cracking behavior of a magnesium alloy, and to present the theory of critical distances as a reliable tool to analyze environmental assisted cracking. Concerning the theory of critical distances, I guess that this symposium does not require an in-depth explanation of the theory of critical distances. Just to mention that it has been widely validated on fracture and fatigue processes and different types of material, different type of conditions, and it may be used to predict how the apparent fracture toughness of the material increases when the notch radius also increases. That is, it is a really interesting tool to analyze the notch effect, both in fracture conditions and also in fatigue conditions, a critical process and a subcritical one. We just need, the theory of critical distances just need an additional material parameter, which is usually the proper critical distance, and this critical distance comes together with another one, which is the inherent strength. Both parameters are related to each other through the fracture toughness, if we are talking about fracture processes, so at the end it is just one additional parameter. The theory of critical distances is actually comprises a group of methodologies, all of them using this critical distance, and one of them is the line method. Other type of the methodologies are the point method, the area method, the volume method. This work just uses the line method, which establishes that fracture. If we are talking about fracture takes place when the average stress along a certain distance, which happens to be twice the critical distance, equates the inherent strength. As I told you, the theory of critical distance has been successfully applied to fracture and fatigue. And what we propose here is to apply the theory of critical distance in environmentally assisted cracking conditions. We have already published works uh, on the application of the theory of critical distance in the analysis of environmentally assisted cracking processes in structural steels, and the results were really good. And now we are applying it on magnesium alloys, biomedical materials. And the alloy selected in this case is AZ31. There you have the microstructure and the tensile curve. There is a typo there in the elastic modulus. It is 31,000 megapascals, of course, and you have there the other mechanical properties. The environment is the well-known simulated body fluid, which has a very specific, but at the end, simple composition, as you see here. You have the reference on the paper. It was proposed in 2006 by a Japanese researcher, and well, it requires a pretty constant temperature around 36 degrees and a pH around 7.4. At the end, it is a really well-known composition that simulates quite good the human environment. So, which is what our proposal. When dealing with fracture assessment, we have this expression on the middle left part of the slide for the critical distance, and we will have an analogous expression for the critical distance in environmental assisted cracking conditions. If we combine these expressions with the line method and the cracker Paris stress distribution on U-shaped notches, we have the expressions shown below for the apparent resistance of the material. The first one on the bottom left side is well known. It's for fracture conditions, and it was not proposed by us, of course, but the expression on the bottom part and on the right is our proposal to predict the environmentally assisted cracking threshold for the material when containing notches, which is equal to that one observed in cracked conditions multiplied by the same factor to take into account the notch effect. I mean, the reasoning is exactly the same as that known for fracture and for fatigue. In this case, is applied in environmentally assisted cracking conditions. Here you have some pictures of the experimental setup. You have here the CT specimens used in the analysis. Here we will have the simulated body fluid environment, and here we will have the defect, a crack or notch. And here you have the experimental results. We applied a constant displacement rate, and we measure PQ, which corresponds to the load applied when the defect, when the crack starts to propagate, or a crack starts to propagate from the notch tip. At that point, this PQ is applied, is entered into a formulation provided by ISO 7539 to obtain the corresponding environmentally assisted cracking threshold. If we are working with notches, this will be the apparent environmentally assisted cracking threshold. And here you have how when the notch radius increases, the threshold also increases. This is a graph of the results with a clear increase in the threshold or in the environmentally assisted cracking threshold, and how the line method is able to predict the evolution of such threshold. So this provide us more confidence after validating this methodology on structural steels. Now that we see that it also seems to work on biomaterials, we are still working on it. Now, well, it seems to be possible to use the theory of critical distances also in environmentally assisted cracking processes. Conclusions. About the notch effect, magnesium alloy AZ31 experienced a clear notch effect under environmentally assisted cracking conditions. I mean, the notch effect is clear for this magnesium alloy when talking about environmentally assisted cracking conditions. And the theory of critical distances has provided a good prediction of the evolution. In this case, we have applied just a best fit to see whether or not the curve is able to reproduce the evolution. But in other cases, we have first established a calibration of L, not by best fitting, but by through finite elements, and the predictions were also good. So the theory of critical distances seems to accurately reproduce the behavior of the material in the analyzed conditions. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm open now for any questions.